you are streaming.
I'm streaming, and I thought I was sitting. Welcome to Mount Shasta, land of snow, artificial snow, but lots of it. So, did everybody have a great Thanksgiving holiday week? I hope you kept your work up. Those of you who are students, remember your work, right? So we're thin in the audience tonight because of the blizzards, and most of the people who live close enough to be in our live studio audience have little teeny tiny Tinkertoy cars with little teeny tiny wheels with a ground clearance about this high, and if they accidentally drive over one of the mini walnuts in our yard, they bottom out, and so lots of slush on the road means you're stuck with me and my bad jokes that you have to laugh at anyway, and I will hear you or not. So, because we took a week off, and I never know who's watching, we'll check in a minute, and I never know who watches this later, which I have no way of knowing. I'm going to do a little recap. Come here, Smoky Cat. Stay away from that. Get over here. We have cats wandering about. Black cats. And it's not even Halloween. Okay, what we're doing is, this whole series is known as the Toltec Discussions with Golden Eagle. I am Golden Eagle. I am a teacher and a shaman in the Toltec tradition, and I am here trying to raise the consciousness of humanity, who appears that most of them have to be drugged kicking and screaming into the higher consciousness world. And then when they get there, they go, oh, my, wow, that feels pretty good. Cat, stop it. So that's what the broad, big picture of the Toltec Discussions is about. The Toltecs are a culture of North America, an ancient culture of North America, dating back somewhere between 12,642 years and 14,795 years, plus or minus 5 years on either end. Okay, so that's the range during which time the Toltec culture got its formal start here in North America. Everybody with me so far? Give me a big thumbs up. All right. The Toltec culture is famous for a lot of things. It's famous for art. Toltec artists are still the talk of North America after all these many centuries. Some of the best artwork produced on this continent, Toltec. Almost every later culture tried to copy the Toltecs. The key about Toltec art, it isn't just a pretty piece to look at. It carries energy, it carries messages of spiritual transformation, and that is the key of Toltec culture. Spiritual transformation of humanity. We'll define humanity in a few minutes, because we're in the middle of a series right now called
The Humanity Experience.
Yeah! Ding, ding, ding! The Humanity Experience, and what that means. So without having to go back and watch the previous 5 or 6 editions of the Humanity Experience, which are up online on our YouTube channel, and then come back and catch up and to try to do, what's that, a dozen hours of stuff and get caught up in real time, that's too hard. So I'm going to just give you the brief, okay? So we'll get to the Humanity Experience in a minute, but humanity is a merger of specially created
you want me to turn off the music?
Oh, you know what? That's a good idea. We've got some background music going, and I apologize. I forgot to negate it.
Don't make a big deal.
So, the humanity experience is our current series of discussions. What it's about is you are an eternal essence. You're a spirit being. You're here on Earth having a physical experience, and you're driving around in a vehicle called a human primate. Sometimes known as just your vehicle, sometimes known as a human biological machine. The human biological machine portion of your organism we call the merger between your eternal essence and the biological part. That is the human organism. And understanding that is the key take-home message of this whole series, and how to use that information to get done what you're here to do. So, you're here on a secret mission to watch sitcoms, drink beer, swear about traffic, and make sure you keep up on the latest fashions from the latest starlets in Hollywood. Right? Everybody? No. Okay. No, I'm told. But if you look in the media and you talk to the average person on the street, they think that's what they're here for, because at least I think they think that's what they're doing and what they're here for, because that's all they're doing. The Toltecs knew better. The purpose of human culture as a whole is very specific and extremely important for the future of the universe. And we'll get to that a little bit later tonight in this very show. You don't even have to come back next week to get that part. So, in this Toltec work, we view this work as an act of service for humanity and the future of humanity that is so important. We say that we do this for all beings everywhere. Because the universe as a whole has to work together. All the various categories of human primates here on Earth are supposed to be working together. And Earth itself is different than anywhere else you've been. It's different than any other planet you've incarnated on. And it's the purpose of the planet and the purpose of those beings incarnated here, of which you are one, is so special, so unique, that there literally are almost no other planets like this. Almost. One or two over there, but we don't talk about them. They're kind of like those backward cousins that nobody admits as part of the family tree, but they're there. And maybe one or two over there. So, what was I going to tell you about the humanity experience? Oh, it's really good. It's really cool. It's really fun. You're here on a true mission, a true will mission. Your true purpose, your divine purpose, your dharma. And it's so secret that we can't tell you. You have to find it on your own. Hidden all around the world are clues to what your true purpose is, and you have to figure them out and interpret them and piece it all together like millions of pieces of a jigsaw puzzle have been fragmented and scattered all over the world. That's what you're supposed to be doing. All the stories about the map and the treasure hunt and go get rich quick and all that, the golden fleece, Jason and the Argonauts, Beowulf fighting the dragon to get the pot of gold. Or wait, was that the Hobbit?
Mhm.
Yeah, wait. No, which came first? Beowulf. Tolkien borrowed it from Beowulf, that's right. So, they're all archetypally based on the Tree of Life, which I did a series on early this year. This year's almost over. Can you believe it? I can't. It's like yesterday was February, and I'm like, it's December? Really? I can tell you one thing with certainty, that right now, this very second, the sun is in Sagittarius. I know that. So it must be true. The year's almost over.
Mr. Sag Rat.
I am. I'm a Sag rat. And you don't want to monkey with me. All you human primates don't want to deal with us half human, half horse rats. So your true will purpose, that's what you're here for. Have you found it yet? You're still incarnated? Yes? No? Yeah. Then you're not done. Get busy. Keep working. You're not done. So part of this whole series, is an attempt to shorten the usual process of figuring out that A, you have a true purpose you're supposed to be doing, B, finding out what it is, C, finding out how to do it, and in D, actually doing it. Let's review. A, finding out that you have a true purpose. B was?
That's math in my head. I don't do that. And that looked kind of cool with the gem flashing in the lights.
Figuring out you have a true purpose. Finding out what it is.
What's the difference between?
Knowing that you have it
Oh, okay.
is different than knowing what it is.
Okay.
I'm supposed to go find something doesn't mean you've found it yet.
Okay.
Good question. Ding on the question.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. C was how to do it. Okay, I know what it is I'm supposed to do, but I have no freaking clue how to do it. Okay, so C is how to do it. And D,
Do it.
do it. Just
Do
it. Okay, so let's recap. A,
Realizing that you have such a thing as a true will.
oh yes. Good. We'll stop there. I don't want to go backwards on this. So this humanity experience thing, this true will thing is so important that it outweighs everything else. Right?
Right.
Good answer. I have bigger knives over there if I need to get them, but I prefer not to. It's even more important than sitcoms. It's more important even than sports. And I know we're getting into the bowling season. You think it's winter season, but it's really the bowling season. You know, the Super Bowl, the Rose Bowl, the Alamo Bowl, all those bowl games, right?
Is there really an Alamo Bowl?
Yeah. The Alamo rental car people sponsor it, and I don't know if that's the one that is. There used to be a bowl game in El Paso called the Sun Bowl, and I don't know if that's the one that's been renamed Alamo. They've renamed them after their corporate sponsors, and so now you don't know where they are. You know, Sugar Bowl, you knew that was in New Orleans, and the Orange Bowl was in Miami, and now it's like I don't even know if those bowl games exist. But yeah, it's more important. And this work, the Toltec work of spreading the big picture work, includes a secret formula of how to transcend humanity into something greater. And it's so important that we give away the knowledge to anybody who asks. So if you're watching this, some of you I know have asked, some of you are thinking about it, some of you are going, huh? That's okay. And it's so important that we don't discriminate against who asks. We don't discriminate on race or gender or what dirt island called a continent you may have been from or what kind of car you drive. or we don't even discriminate based on who your favorite sports team is. So you want to root for New England, the most hated team in America? Great, we'll offer you the Toltec teachings if you show up. Pretty much anybody. Say it doesn't matter who, which college team, which high school team, which pro team of which sport. Doesn't matter. Well, unless you're from the Washington State Cougars, then we discriminate. You know, the worst thing yet, it's rivalry season. They just had all the rivalry games in football. You know, the USC UCLA thing, the Michigan Ohio State. Michigan's not doing well in that one lately. Washington Huskies versus the Washington State Cougars. Huskies won for the 7th time in a row, and they've won something like more than 75% of the games historically. So the Washington State Cougars, they have a history as a farmer college, and so, you know, there's a joke about them. You know, half the students there don't bathe, never wash their clothes, chew tobacco, and spit on the floor. The men are even worse. Another joke says, well, the worst thing about Wazoo is that all the jokes are true. And to show how far I've gone in my development, I don't even remember the rest of the jokes. So if Washington State Cougars show up here, do we let them in?
No.
And teach them? Right. Good answer.
No, they have to ask.
They have to ask.
And they
have to wear purple and gold. That's their penance to get in. See, Washington State is silver and red, and Washington's purple and gold. In honor of our victory, I'm wearing gold tonight. But seriously, even if the Washington State Cougars show up and wear purple and gold, we will teach them the full teachings. And if you've looked around the world lately, like this century, humanity is in need of assistance and guidance. And the first piece of assistance they need is somebody needs to take a board and smack them collectively upside the head and say, what are you doing? Now I have a list of the people most in need of being smacked with a board. I'm sure you would put together your own lists. Your Toltec teacher would probably be first on the list. Your favorite or least favorite politician would be second. Favorite in the terms of who do you put on the dartboard to throw darts at, right?
Well, this week it's Caltrans.
This week, good segue, is Caltrans. Some of you who are on Facebook may have caught some of my Facebook posts, like where I've posted videos of snow-covered freeways with whole teams of snowplows plowing it off to keep the roads open, and they run, you know, like every 15, 20, 30 minutes, and the road stays open. I don't know if you knew that if you've never been outside California, but that's the norm pretty much everywhere else in the world where it snows. Winter comes in the mountains, snow starts to fall, you get the plow trucks out right away. In California, we have an organization called Caltrans, which is the fancy name for the California Department of Transportation. And they appear to be using the movie Idiocracy as their training manual. Oregon, on one highway at least, is in a close second. But it's the truck drivers who win the prize for being the biggest idiots on the road. We saw, in a snowstorm, five semis, one of them a double trailer version, in a ditch, two of which were rolled over, and one was crumpled so badly it was like somebody took an egg beater to it. I don't think that person is feeling very good today. And there were boxes scattered for 100 yards beside the road. I don't think it was FedEx or UPS, but somebody is going to be really disappointed when their Christmas packages don't arrive. And all you have to do, here's your quiz. When it starts snowing, and especially if the plow trucks are late, do you drive the, here it's multiple choice questions, A, B, and C. Do you drive your normal speed? B, do you speed up trying to outrun the snowflakes? Or C, do you slow down? Your answer would be?
Slow down.
Ding, 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 ding. You get 5 dingy dingies. Because 1 dingy dingy for each of the trucks we saw in the ditch that didn't. It's not hard. There's this little accelerator pedal, also known as a gas pedal. You push on it and it goes faster, you pull it back, and you slow down. So when it starts to snow, pull it back. Your vehicle
You
slows
don't
down.
brake.
Don't hit the brakes, you just slow down. You don't put yourself in a position to have to do anything quickly. You don't start quickly, you don't stop quickly, you don't turn quickly, and the only way you guarantee none of those is you don't drive quickly. You go slow. And you get where you're going in one piece. So, Caltrans got railed and reamed because, railed on and railed at and reamed in my Facebook post, because yet again, they decided plowing was an annoyance. So they didn't plow, trucks in the ditch, spinouts everywhere, and then the road is blocked with cars that can't get through and trucks that are jackknifed, and the plows can't get through, the tow trucks can't get through, and oh my, it started snowing in the mountains in the weather, just like it's done every winter for the last 80,000 years, and we just weren't expecting that. We got stuck in Reading Saturday night because Caltrans appears to be run by graduates from the Idiocracy School of Management. And we were at an event that went late. They closed the roads. We got stuck in a cheap motel. And at the event we were at, I started railing on Caltrans with facts. I was spreading facts about Caltrans. At the table was the wife of one of the 2 bigwigs that were at this event, who works for Caltrans. And to her credit, she didn't deny anything or try to make excuses. She said, very bureaucratically, A, that's not my department, I'm not in charge of that. But B, here's the name of the person who is. And now I'm going to be writing a letter. But we couldn't wait to write the letter. We had to get online, and by we, I mean me. I made a few posts. I admitted. Guilty as charged. And I told the truth. I said, Caltrans, look, here's what it's like to plow snow off a road, day or night. Posted 3 videos. All of that is part of the humanity experience. This is what happens when a society cuts itself off from the higher frequency inputs of their eternal essences. This is what happens when you take a short-term perspective, and especially a short-term perspective where money is your only concern. Well, we can't possibly afford to do that. I don't know what they planned on doing when it starts snowing in the mountains in the wintertime. And pretty much every other state in the winter doesn't seem to have most of these problems. In the last 2 or 3 years, we've driven through, in the winter, Washington, Oregon, California, Idaho, Montana, Nevada, and Utah. Previous to all that, I've also could add Colorado and Arizona and New Mexico to that list in my lifetime, in the winter. in the snow. And pretty much everybody except California does it right. So when you're thinking about this and listening to me and saying, what the heck is he railing on? I want you to look at and analyze the situation. Use this as an example of what they are doing. The government, the officials, big corporations. How are they thinking? Is everything short-sighted? A day after our great holiday of Thanksgiving, where we're grateful for what we have, we run around and stab people trying to get the $10 off that TV that's the newest model, that's only 6 months newer than the model you already bought earlier this year? If that's your true will, so be it. I'm not going to pass judgment. I'm just going to say, from a big picture, eternal perspective, that ain't it. But you do what you want. Question.
So, Low Legal asked a question, and I think in general what we're looking at is, again, how do we apply this to what we're doing? So in relationship to you speaking about the transformation of humanity,
Oh, that.
she asks, my question is how I can put transformational humanity into my artwork. How do I smuggle information in my art in plain sight? So that may be specific to her and a something she could talk to you about later, but it does seem like...
No, we'll talk now.
Yeah.
I'm just looking through the outline of what I was supposed to talk about tonight and seeing where the best place to put that is, or okay. I was going to do something else first, but I think this is important. So, I'm going to talk about the life cycle of civilizations in a little bit. Over somewhere between on average, a 200 to 500 year lifespan, civilizations go through a predictable and repeatable cycle of rise and fall. And we're going to talk about that in detail. And then I was going to segue into how the Toltecs did it, where they were able to defeat that rise and fall and stretch that way out for thousands of years at the peak. I've already given the answer to that tonight. So before I ask what the answer is, let's see who's online.
Okay, so Mohadib, Aaron Eaton.
Aaron is here. Good on you.
Marcel is listening from Washington.
Oh, Marcel. Wow.
And Dennis Brown.
Dennis Brown, hi.
Patty.
Patricia, welcome back.
Scott Hicks.
Oh, Scott Hicks in Grants Pass?
Yep.
Cool.
And Yvonne. Little Eagle. Did I say
Yvonne
that?
Little
Yeah.
Eagle.
I missed that, yeah.
In retrospect, some of you might have been able to get in tonight. They regraded the road today. A lot of slush, but there's no ice, and there's, I think normal cars might have made it. But like I said in my warning today, I don't have time to go pull people out of ditches today. So, how did the Toltecs do it? And then we'll get to your art question. So, they kept the peak going rather than like on a 200 or 300 year time trend. It was 10 times that. It was over 3,000 years at their peak, and then there was a rise before and a slow tail off at the end. What did they do different? I told you tonight already. Either you personally or anybody online can answer that question. I'll wait. I want to give everybody watching an opportunity to think back on what was said and what was the key. It wasn't watching sitcoms.
consciousness upgrades and consciousness upgrade accessories.
That's the how. That's the how. Very good. Yes, my Hank Hill, Toltec for Dummies by Hank Hill. I sell consciousness upgrade and consciousness upgrade accessories. What? Dave doesn't have an answer? Little Eagle doesn't have an answer? Patricia doesn't have an answer? Really?
Little Eagle says in plain sight it was in the artwork.
Well, no. What I said tonight about what the key is to breaking that cycle.
Muad'Dib says finding their true will.
That's part of how. It's all closely related. You're spiraling in. What about you, Aurea?
I already said what I was.
Okay. The answer is very simple. You take the eternal perspective. When you take the eternal perspective and you have an understanding of multiple incarnations with your essence coming in, and each time you come in, you're here on a mission. When you have that eternal perspective, it becomes possible to regulate your culture in such a way that transformation, what your question is, Little Eagle, becomes the only goal. Your bucket list then has only one item on it. Do my will. You're working collectively as a culture, as a society. And collectively, the collective consciousness of this humanity organism, it has a true will, and its bucket list has one item on it. And that item, from the collective's point of view, is what I'm calling transformation. I apply that more to an individual, and as collectively we call the Toltecs, Toltecs called it transcendence. Transcend this artificial projection, transcend this physical plane's frequencies, this reality, in quotes, into something higher and better. Take humanity and make us into something else. Now, something else I haven't mentioned tonight, but if you've heard me any length of time at all, you may remember what is it that the Toltecs did in some of their cities towards that end? What was the meme that describes how the Toltecs did that, what the objective was? As we play Toltec Jeopardy.
Artwork.
Not quite. The purpose, let me give you another clue. Teotihuacan. Anybody responding?
Little Eagle says perfection.
Yeah, that's close. The translation of the name of the city of Teotihuacan was the city where gods are forged or made. So that was their goal. Their objective is, individually and collectively, is to bring the attributes, the qualities and capabilities of the Supreme Divine Intelligence down into the physical world in vehicles that have been modified and molded to be capable of manifesting the full capabilities of God here on earth. Thus, human evolution becomes this two-part process. The bottoms down, or the bottoms up, and the top down. From the bottoms up perspective, these human organisms, we started out as smart worms with fancy flippers, and then we added spines and opposable thumbs, and the next thing you know, we're driving around in sports cars and creating fast food restaurants. So the opposable thumbs was a big one because that's what we need to manipulate the physical environment, and we're constantly pushing the limits of what we can do physically. That's why things like martial arts are so important. Actually, any athletic endeavor or exercise program, because you're pushing the limits. We need to always be pushing our own personal limits physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And it doesn't matter if, let's say, I'm never going to be able to throw a fastball 105 miles per hour like Nolan Ryan did. I just didn't have the right rotator cuff for that. But I doubt Nolan Ryan is a 4th degree black belt. So there you go. Thugs attack me, I win. If he walks around with a baseball bat and he gets that half a second it needs to ping him with it, he'll just pick something up and wham, he'll do okay. But yeah, he threw a baseball more than 100 miles an hour. You don't want to know. The one time I got measured, right after college on the radar gun, it wasn't pretty. Nolan Ryan's records are safe with me. So we push the limits because and it's not just physical exercise. It's things like art in particular, music, dance, writing. You're creating new neural pathways, languages. Learn a language. Tree of Life is a language. Learn it. And when you create new neural pathways, that enables you to create new connections to your own higher bodies. You can then activate those bodies. And then the goal of all of this is not just to transform humanity's physical organisms, or vehicles, these human biological machines, generation by generation. It's to also use this, the difference in potential energy between the earth plane and the highest planes, to create a current to also drive the evolution of our eternal essence, to create more tendrils to infiltrate, to bring down more of those God capabilities we all have, because we're all an extension of that divine intelligence. And of course, the Akadwa energy that we use is a more direct connection than what you would have had without it. The purpose of all of this has been captured through the years in the ancient mystery schools. The Delphi mysteries, the Egyptian mysteries, the Zoroastrian mysteries are some of the oldest. Atlantis, all the cultures that sprang from that. Shamanism everywhere in the world sprang from the Atlantean missionaries and later refugees, the ones who got out right at the end, and started teaching the cultures, some of whom hadn't been approached yet. And well, Atlantis is gone, we still have our mission, right? We still need to spread this because humanity is a great project, the Humanity Project, where we're trying to create enough people with godlike capabilities so that we can finish creation. And so the different mystery schools, some of them held most of it, some of them held all of it. A lot of that has been lost. We have different pieces of that have been brought forward in time, Masonry being one. The Toltec lineage is another. There were some lineages in ancient India that held all or part of that, and some of those teachers still are in existence. They have their continuous trail back like we have ours. And the time to work together is now. So this is really what the Humanity Experience series has been about. And why now, you might ask? We'll get to that in a minute when I get to that other thing. But back to your question about art. I'm still on the first question, by the way. How do you... Can you read her question again? Scroll up maybe. And
How can I put transformational humanity information into my artwork? How do I smuggle information in my art in plain sight?
So, you have to do something which is challenging, which is you have to start to exist in two worlds at the same time. And just like I've talked about a top-down and a bottoms-up evolution of humanity, you have to exist in those two places simultaneously, consciously, and merge those worlds. You won't be able to get the whole thing at once. Well, I don't think you can. I don't want to limit you. The best way to start this process is have one piece of this message you're trying to deliver. That there's something higher. That there's higher planes. You connect with your highest aspect of yourself that you can connect with. And you connect with that message. And then at the same time, you do a piece of art. And you're transferring through the Akadwa that image, that multidimensional image, into the art. And it's there energetically. This is what the Toltecs did. And anybody who is receptive, who later views that art, is going to start to sense something. They're going to be drawn to it. They aren't going to necessarily know why. There will be a little trigger in the appearance. You could paint a scene of anything, but there's going to be a few things juxtaposed that are incongruous. It will be something that starts to be a little nagging something at the back of your mind, or the viewer's mind, and it's going to bother them. The whole painting they're going to like and resonate with, but then there's going to be one thing that's out of place. Not that I'm suggesting this, but suppose you draw a tile floor of alternating red and white squares. Only one of the red squares, let's say, is burnt orange. Or one of the white squares is kind of a faded yellow. Just one of them. And it's not in the middle, right? There's something around the edges, and and that's going to be a clue to both their conscious and their subconscious that something else is going on here. Or maybe all the walls and doors are nice and neat and clean and feng shui, but then one of them is twisted. EJ has this kind of work in his art. If you look at a lot of his artwork, there's always something a little off. And that's, as a viewer of this art, that's where you place your attention with the dreamer's stare. Send it the Akadwa and see where it takes you. Right? So as you're painting, let's say you're painting, and you have this higher plane vision because your consciousness and your attention is there, you're creating a portal with this incongruity in your art. And when the viewer activates that with their attention, anyone who's receptive has the potential to go through that portal you've created and access that space that you've connected it to. You know, there's some of the paintings that are done where one hand is bigger or one finger is bigger, or the asymmetries are there, or the one little thing is off. Question.
Well, I don't think it always has to be off as in a negative, irregularity or breaking a rule of art. But a lot of the esoteric paintings through time would have one figure, let's say there was a battle scene or something, one figure would be looking directly at what we would consider the camera. So they're the guide then. And so a lot of times they might be pointing to something, or they might be holding a particular mudra or something like that, which would be completely overlooked if you don't understand esoteric art and,
That's
how to
another
read
good
it.
way.
Yeah.
Leonardo da Vinci's The Last Supper, right? When you look at Christ and the apostles and you count up the number of hands, there's an extra arm. Right? This is one of the clues. There's an extra arm, like coming around somebody, and there are versions of that painting that have painted that up. But the original has an extra arm, and that's the incongruity, that's the clue. Okay. But that's only good for something. And these illuminated artworks that you're talking about, they were connected. They were truly esoteric. They have a link. But you have, in order to be successful at that, you have to connect those two worlds. So that's what you have to start practicing. So I would say start small, start simple, and then expand. So I hope that answers your question, or at least gets you started. So if there's anything else you want to ask on that, ping us while we're on the air, and I will go there. Okay, so the goal, the way the Toltecs did this, a lot of you have heard me talk about before, so I'm going to keep this part short. And if you go back over the last year and watch every one of my broadcasts, you'll find the details somewhere. Toltec culture started with the assumption that transcendence is the purpose of human existence. Every decision made, every action taken at every level of society throughout the culture was made with the question in mind, how will this support transcendence? My preparations, my work, the group's work, however. That was the underlying assumption. And it was so ingrained from before people were born, while they're in the womb, a woman is pregnant, they start teaching then. Education of each generation starts prenatally. You call in the spirit who needs to come and do this work. That's the spirit that enters the child. And then the society, the culture is modeled after the pyramid, the Tolteca-Yoto philosophy pyramid, where the base is farming and food production. If you don't have healthy vehicles, you can't use this vehicle as an apparatus of transformation. Next is health. You've got to be healthy. You've got to have proper health care. You smash a finger, you need to know what to do. You get sick, you got to know what to do. Prevention is the hugest part of that, right? We're officially in cold and flu season, which means they're spraying more garbage on us. There's more junk food being served to us. So A, don't go there, and B, keep your immune system strong. Did you take your vitamin C today? Is step one. And because of the antiviral properties, the second question is, did you take your extra vitamin A today? So that's very Toltec. Prevent, keep healthy. Third level up the pyramid is education. Education is free and compulsory in the Toltec world. Everybody is taught. You have to be able to know read, write, do languages, do art. And even if you're going to be a farmer, you knew art. You're out doing farming with your farm implements. You did artwork on those implements. This was very Celtic as well. Ancient China was famous for this. When I was in Taiwan, I had an opportunity when my 2 weeks of work was done to tour a few places in Taipei. Huge pagoda-style hotel, and literally every square inch of every surface of every room in the entire hotel was decorated with intricate carvings, mosaic work, painting. It was like living inside a piece of Chinese artwork, which it was, right? Celts, their weapons, their shields, their little buttons smaller than this, and you look at it with a magnifying glass, and there's spiral work on it. Those little details are important because of the energy flow, the subtle energy. That's how we link the worlds. So you're a Toltec farmer, you're out there shoveling manure. Be conscious, be aware. Decorate your tools. And not all my farming tools are decorated yet. This idea just came to me this year. I haven't had a chance to do it yet. And then finally at the top was to organize this. You've got a lake over there, you've got aqueducts, you've got water storage, water distribution, farming networks, markets, you've got temples, you've got education, you've got all this stuff that has to be organized. So a certain amount of effort goes into the organization. That's the smallest piece of the pyramid. Our modern culture, it's reversed. It's like somebody stuck it. The biggest piece at the top is government. And farming and food production is an afterthought right now in this culture. We've got to flip that around. So the humanity experience is intended to remind you, those of you who are watching this, that you are a ghost driving around a meat-covered skeleton on a secret mission. Right? You're a divine spirit inhabiting a physical being as an avatar. And you need to, A, remember that you have something you're supposed to do. You need to find out what it is. You need to figure out how to do it. And then do it. And the time to do that is right now, because the earth is going through a period of change. And our culture is going through great upheaval and change. And I want to review for your mind the stages of the life cycle of a society and a culture, so that the only reason I'm doing this is to get your attention on the now part. When you see where we are in this, you're going to go, holy heck. The first stage that a culture starts in usually is some form of bondage or slavery. And every step of this, I want you to think of at least two levels of complexity. One is the obvious physical level out here in the physical world, the Malthusian world. And the other is what is a higher planing, more esoteric explanation of all this. So if you're in the physical world, for example, and you're cut off from the higher spheres of the tree of life, you're stuck. You're down here in the physical world. You think that's all there is. That's a form of bondage. But, for example, in the United States, when we were still colonies of Great Britain, good King George, in all his infinite wisdom, Georgie Porgy, puddin' and pie, kissed the girls and made them scream and vomit. Oh, that doesn't rhyme. Let's come up with something else. Kiss the girls and, cry. That rhymes with pie. Kiss the girls and made them cry. So what they did, and think about this. This is like, okay, we're living out here in the West. We're a long ways from Washington, D.C. And let's say Washington, D.C. says, you know what, we're going to throw everybody west of the Rocky Mountains, or if a state's in the Rocky Mountains, you're half on one side, half on the other, like Colorado, we're going to throw you out too. And you don't get any more representatives in Congress, and we're going to pass laws, and we're going to tax you at twice the rate of everybody else. We're not going to give you any government benefits. You just have to keep sending us all your money. And we're going to keep stealing everything from you. Not that that would ever happen, but not that the feds would ever do anything to punish states that voted against somebody. But that's what was going on prior to 1776, right? Britain passed laws that says we're going to tax you more and treat you worse than other British subjects just because of where you live. You know, they went over, they colonized and did all their stuff to get resources like furs and gold to send back to George to support his wars with France. Not that modern governments would support perpetual war with stolen tax money, but that would never happen. So that kind of bondage. And people then start saying, this sucks. We're going to change this. We're going to write a document. We're going to call it the Declaration of Independence. And up yours, Georgie Porgy. He said, I'll send my British army with their bright red coats with a white cross right over the haut and their fancy 50-yard muskets, and we're going to march down the street in plain sight and we're going to squash you. Yeah, well, silly Americans, what did they know about modern warfare? They just sat back with their rifles with a 200-yard range, and they hid in their camouflage green and brown uniforms in the trees, and they just picked them off. And how convenient of the British to have a nice red target with a cross right over the heart. Thank you. And we have a country now, if we can keep it. When the Constitution was being written, this is long after the War of Revolution, and they finally figured out what the form of government was going to be. Ben Franklin came out of Independence Hall in Philadelphia, where this was all taking place, And the crowd asked him, well, what do we have, Mr. Franklin? A monarchy or a republic? Anyone know his exact answer? A republic, if you can keep it. And we're really busily throwing it away right now. But that's another story for another day. It might even be the next series as this one winds down. So you aspire to something greater. You're in bondage. You want freedom. Freedom to fulfill your true will. It's only by connecting with that something higher. You have to be in a desperate enough situation that you connect with something higher. This never happens if a culture doesn't seek God. Then the new culture goes through a period of building and organizing and having a structure. The Tolteca-Yotl was a structure. Our Constitution gives us a structure. The Constitution actually doesn't tell anybody to do anything, or very little anyway. It basically says you get to do anything you want as long as you don't hurt anybody else in the process. And the government specifically can't do all these things, which it's now issuing many executive orders and creating bureaus and agencies to violate. Right? Can't do that. And we have to get upset enough about all of that to take our freedom back. Because the oppressors aren't going to suddenly experience enlightenment and give it to us. We have to just vote them out of office, or we have to have even a more aggressive revolution to just say, okay, nobody pay taxes this year. And this would be a big deal, right? It would have to come from corporations would have to say, you know what? We're not going to withhold wages or taxes from wages and send them off and make the employee beg you to get it back. That's what it would take in about a year. The whole system would come crashing down. Step 4, once you have this structure in place, a society becomes abundant and affluent. So somewhere by the mid-1800s, people were prospering. They were building companies, they were building inventions, building better mousetraps, as the saying goes. And they became abundant. And that leads to step 5, which is self-indulgence and greed and a focus on amusement rather than doing something of substance. So this was the 1920s, right? And we have a little mini setback with World War I and World War II, which is actually one big war, just a long ceasefire in the middle. And everything, oh, it was great, we won the war to end all wars. And, well, no, you didn't. Then we won World War II. Oh, that was the war to end all wars. No, wait, here comes communism. Because right about then, the middle of the 20th century, that's when governments figured out, you know what, we can make a lot of money on this war thing. And at the same time, because of this previous era of abundance, and this was kind of the 80s again too, apathy sets in. That's stage 6. People become apathetic. Oh, yeah, I could go down to the rally, but that's so far to go. 6 blocks to go down there. Oh, there's going to be a crowd, isn't there? No, that's too much fun. And you become used to this opulent life of luxury and instantly buying things on Amazon Prime. You ordered at 9 a.m. In a city, they just zip it over with a little drone, drop it on your front porch by 3, and off they fly. Right? Instant gratification. Oh, it took 3 hours to get here from the other side. What was Amazon thinking? And that induces the state of dependency. People don't know how to provide for themselves. Cook food. Oh no, let's just get takeout. They'll bring it over, right? Until the power goes out, the grid goes down, and this doesn't even have to be the end of the world going down to the grid. This could just be an earthquake or a blizzard, and the power's out for 3 days. It's like, what do I eat? I don't have my instant food delivery service.
My toilet doesn't flush when there's no electricity.
Yeah. Then what? People start to get cold. They don't know how to light a fire. They didn't go through Girl Scouts or Boy Scouts and learn how to light a fire. Back in our days of being an organic farming host farm and getting interns in here from the cities and watching them struggle to do something basic like dig a hole, light a fire. Lighting the fire, which a lot of them had, and about half of them got it by the time they left. My most eye-opening, incredulous moment was spending 20 minutes explaining the difference between a shovel and a rake to an individual who after 15 minutes still didn't understand the difference between a shovel and a rake. Here's a shovel, here's a rake. So you want me to do shovels? No, I want you to rake this. But last week I used the shovel to move. No, shovel won't work on this job. You need a rake. That's what's going on in cities. When the zombie apocalypse hits, wait, what time is it? It's 8:07. Some of you watching this in cities, get ready because yeah, it's coming. That state number seven, dependency leads right back to bondage and slavery. And so we as a American culture collectively are in that stage 7 moving into stage 8. The government and a few big corporations and the power brokers behind them who are directly, indirectly, consciously, unconsciously, they are the minions of the dark side, are really trying to push us back into that state. And we can either stop here without hitting rock bottom and turn it around, or we may have to hit rock bottom before we turn it around. If we have to hit rock bottom, it's not going to be pretty. So when you look at this life cycle of the culture, and you take these 8 steps, this cycle, you can see, look at American history, and you will see right where we are. And that's why in big letters, you need to put up a sign where you're going to see it every day that says now. Doesn't matter what you're thinking of doing, do it now. Because we're running out of now. Now is running out. If we don't do it now, in a very near future, there's going to be a whole lot of people saying, well, crap, why didn't somebody do something? You got to pull your head out of your little handheld device and turn off the mind programming box, whether it's the TV or the computer or whatever, and you've got to do something to upgrade your consciousness through consciousness upgrades and consciousness upgrade accessories. You've got to start taking the eternal perspective for yourself and humanity, and it's time to do something. And throughout history, the instructions have always been available for anybody who woke up enough to look around and say, wow, I remember 3 or 4 years ago when I was just a young lemming, all those people, all those other lemmings ran that way, and I never saw him again. And now everybody's running that way. They want me to go along, and I'm sitting here looking, and it's like, I think that's where the cliff is to the edge of the ocean. I was there once. I saw it. Why are they running? You know what? I'm not going to go that way. And there's going to be a lot of peer pressure to force you to be just like all the other lemmings. Did I mention that now would be a really good time to get off your stick, get off the whatever, and do it? Now, for those of you who are my formal students, you have heard me say the now thing before, and the instructions that I give, the teachings that I offer, are very specific. It's a very specific formula. Every little email, every little verbal instruction, every piece of paper I give you with a written instruction is a formula. It's a recipe. You follow the recipe correctly, and beautiful, tasty raw yogurt appears. Vary one ingredient a little bit, because I don't have time to go get that other ingredient. I'll substitute. I won't take it. I won't keep it at the right temperature. Next thing you know, you've got an explosion all over your ceiling. So when I give you a formula for, hey, here's something going on. You need to do this, this, this. You need to talk to your teacher. You need to do this. You need to write that. You need to submit this report. Whatever it is, there is a formula for specific actions, and it's a recipe for alchemy of you and your consciousness and your transformation thereof into something higher. If you procrastinate, if you don't read instructions carefully, you're going to be just like all the other lemmings. You're gonna, it'd be like that cartoon that goes around the internet of Noah's Ark sailing off into the distance, and the two dinosaurs are saying, well, heck, was that today? I thought it was next week. So, this is concluding the series I've done on the humanity experience. That's just me talking about it formally and explaining the major pieces of the formula and the major background you need to have. Your humanity experience isn't over. It isn't going to be over anytime soon. Even if you die tomorrow, it's not over. It's not over. If you don't fully complete your mission in this incarnation, you're going to come back and start over right where you left off, because your mission's not done. It's not just one incarnation, one mission. You finish that, oh, well, I'll do another. Right? Very seldom is your mission finished in only one incarnation, because our culture seems to be hell-bent on keeping everything that I've talked about in this series away from your conscious mind. So most people don't figure this out until they're 70 or 80 or 90 and go, oh crap, I was supposed to do something. Oh man, what am I going to do now? Yeah, you're going to come back and try it again in another biological machine as your vehicle and try to remember next time. Don't buy in to the whole sitcom, beer drinking, rush hour traffic stuff. The latest fashions, the latest sports cars, the latest sports teams. Don't buy into any of that. You can root for any team you want, just don't make it the Washington You're the Washington State Cougars. That's the kiss of death. You might as well just start your incarnation over now, if that's the case. 7 years in a row I've gotten to gloat about that. Here's to 7 more. Any questions online?
Questions about what you've been talking about?
Any question that I should answer. It's about the humanity experience, about anything else shamanic or esoteric related, or Caltrans. I'll even talk about Caltrans some more. Somebody bigwig at Caltrans is about to get a letter.
So Marcel asks, what if I'm in my 1,000-time incarnation, ready for this game over?
Are you still here? Yes. Then your true will isn't done. The key is finding and fulfilling your true will. If it took you 1,000 lifetimes to get here, that's okay. Some of us may have done more than that. Some of us may have done less than that. It's not the number of lifetimes, and if you're tired of doing this physical incarnation thing and you want to break that cycle, the best way to break the cycle is do your true will, successfully complete your mission, and then move on to a higher frequency plane and do something else. But until you embrace that, and we, in the esoteric work, we sometimes call that nailing yourself to the cross, nailing yourself to an incarnation. Yeah, you've done this before, you know that, you even may remember some of your lifetimes, but how many of them did you actually commit to fulfilling your true will? You know, it's like the ham and eggs breakfast, right? The chicken's involved. Yeah, I'll come back, I'll make some more eggs for somebody's ham and egg breakfast. But the pig is committed. The pig is all in for your ham and egg breakfast. So you need to be all in on this incarnation right now. Drop the distractions. Drop doing things no matter how interesting they are, and focus on what's important. And what's important is your true will, finding it and fulfilling it. And the best way to do all that is through what you said earlier, consciousness upgrades and consciousness upgrade accessories. Hank Hill really was a philosopher. He just didn't know it. So I hope that answers your question, Marcel. It's not how many incarnations to get here. Remember, it doesn't matter how you got here. Your past is just how you got here. One incarnation, 50, 1,000, or more. You're here, do your will. Some people, idiots, did their will, they were successful, they moved on, and they didn't have to come back. And somebody asked them to come back, and they said, oh, well, all right, I'll go back.
To help.
Suckers. So, when you're tired of this game, this roller coaster, this merry-go-round, this wheel of fortune, and you want it to stop, and you want to be successful, and you want to see humanity advance, and do your piece of the puzzle, and then be done, do your will. And the fact that you're here asking questions means A, you haven't completed your mission, and B, you're on the right track by asking those questions. Any other questions?
Dennis mentioned that he finished the Hopi survival kit today.
Wow, good for you.
Said thanks for the reference and that it was a nice reinforcement of the current discussion.
Mm-hmm. It is outstanding. I applaud you for reading that, sir. Anybody else have comments?
Yvonne, or Little Eagle says, how do we use the read and read generator to upgrade humanity and transcendence? Would it be like the two world answer in the artwork?
Well, partly. The read is part of your structure. It's part of the link between your physical vehicle and your light bodies, right? That's what it is. The fact that you've now progressed to the point where you see it and sense it is good. Don't focus on it. Don't overly focus on it. Just be aware and use it. It's like, oh wow, I could use my right index finger for all these things. Well, you've got 9 other digits, including 2 opposable thumbs. Use all of your capabilities. It's in part, it's your structure, and in part, it's an information and energy conduit. So you use an energy and information conduit to move energy and information. That's how you would use the read. But it's like, I think I talked a while back, 2 weeks ago maybe, about the messenger. Don't shoot the messenger, right? Prophets bring a message and people don't like it because it says they're screwing up, so they kill the prophet. It's like in the old department stores. You may remember seeing some of these, Little Eagle, where they had those compressed air tubes between the upstairs business office and the downstairs at the cashier station, right? And so they get some money and they put in this little thing. They still use these at some drive-through banks, right? And they drop it in and they close the door and they hit the button and go whoosh, and it takes the money up, and then whoosh, down comes a receipt or documents that they need on the floor, right? So information and energy are going through that tube. So yeah, you want your tube, you want that read, that's part of our structure, but it's the information being carried back and forth that's what's critical. You got to start with your tube and then move something. And it's your attention, your consciousness bringing through. You've got that amazing gift to find things on the higher planes and bring them through into art, which is one of the classic all-time ways a Toltec works. So you've got to maintain those awareness of those connections. Otherwise, if you're just focused, oh, how cool, I'm hearing voices, I'll just do whatever they say. There's tons of spiritual jokes about people losing their fortunes because they listened to the voice when they didn't know who the voice was that was telling them what to do. So yeah, you got to know who you're talking to, and the way you do that is you put your attention and your consciousness on the higher planes at the same time as here. That's one of the skills that Toltec attention work can help you develop, but only if you follow the formula. Any other comments, questions, complaints? I swept the floor today, so those little complaint forms I had, I think I don't have any here. Nothing else?
Well, I was going to mention the Labyrinth Readers course.
Oh, good. Please do.
So that begins next, hold on. Okay, so the Labyrinth Readers course is a 12-week instruction class on how to contact those who are in transition and assist them as a guide using the American Book of the Dead, It's also appropriate for gatekeepers or caregivers or anyone who's working with someone who may be in another space, such as coma, drug addiction, depression, etc. So for anyone who works in that capacity, these are skills to how to connect and work with those. And so that's a 12-week course. It's going to be $125 that goes to the Institute for the manuals and book. And next Sunday at 3 p.m. there will be a live introduction that you can tune into, and you can decide then if you want to put a deposit down on the class, and the remainder will be done in January when we continue the course. So we will only have the one introduction course. There'll be some homework and stuff that you can do over the holidays and all, and then we will reconvene. And I've put that into the comment line, so if you aren't aware of that and would like more information, my email address is there, so you can contact me.
The other thing I will mention, since you reminded us about announcements, is I'm not sure what the second, first, seventh, the 21st of December is the winter solstice, and that is also the day of our quarterly shamanic training event, which is going to be open to the public.
Not the public,
Well,
invited guests.
Yes, thank you. To invited guests. So if you have somebody you would like to invite, let me know, and we'll talk, and hopefully they will get invited. And it's required for students, and I will have something for those of you who are so far away that it may not be practical, especially this time of year, to get here. So we're going to have to be a little bit flexible and creative depending on the weather, which is unpredictable thanks to
Sorry, I left this on me the whole time.
Oh, sorry. The geoengineering warlords. Hi, I'm back. So we'll just play by ear, and it's not going to be overly strenuous. The one at
Getting here in the snow will be the most.
so yeah, the getting here is going to be your challenge. So watch the weather and get here early. Leave early if it looks like the weather will be bad, and if you get stuck here, we'll put you to work if you can't leave. So in the spring, I don't have details or dates. I'll pick the weekend, probably be either the closest weekend to the actual spring equinox or
It's
the
already
week.
on the calendar, so.
Well, let me say what I was going to say. And we're going to look at that because we have an event later in the month that involves travel. So we're going to pick a time, and if we have to move ours a week earlier, we might. So I may make that one a little longer. That may be a 2-day event is where I was going with that. So anyway, keep up your reading, keep up your study, keep up your meditations, keep up your journaling. And if you have questions, contact me. If you haven't contacted me in a while, then you're probably overdue to contact me. And that's all I have for tonight.
Okay, so just for the record, the one on the calendar is the 21st, and the event in LA is until the 26th. Anyone who was going to the event in LA should have contacted you and made payment arrangements with Chikoko. And also, we are going to visit EJ for his birthday later this month. And we're gonna make a group donation for his birthday. So if you wanted to pitch in on that, let us know what you're gonna contribute.
Thank you. That's a good reminder. For those who don't know who EJ is, EJ Gold is one of the great spiritual shamans in existence. My primary teacher, of course, as most of you know, is Coyote the Blind, who initiated me into the Toltec lineage, but closely behind him is EJ Gold, who is a shaman and a physicist and a jazz musician and a modern artist and a New York salesman, and he uses all of those in elegant ways to get the teachings out. And you could do worse than to follow EJ. So, I think that's it, unless somebody types in really quickly that they have one last minute question. And if not,
Okay, so some of you have personal questions about some of your payments and things, so this probably isn't the best forum for that. Follow up. My phone's not working, by the way, and I don't know if and when I'll ever get another phone. So you can contact us on the Golden Eagle Discourse Gmail account for students.
Right.
Yeah.
So for those who may be watching, you can find all this information out by going to ToltecShamanicarts.org. There's 4 sections there, and go into the Golden Eagle Discourses section. That opens up to all the Toltec Shamanic School stuff, including email addresses. And we welcome comments and inquiries and donations. We just had these blizzards here. I almost forgot I wanted to mention this. We've had these blizzards, and we live down a very short but poorly maintained dirt road called Remore Lane. And when the weather is bad, low slung, low clearance vehicles can't get here, at least not safely. So I'm looking at a specific space in town. I'll hopefully have an answer this week on what the rental situation might be. But in order to do that and to make these discussions more available, it's going to need some commitment and assistance from the school. And that means a commitment to help financially with whatever the rent would be for, a couple, 3 hours, every Monday night, and to help physically clean the space, alter the space, set up tech equipment, do whatever it is we have to do to make that space work. So, and then tear it all down and put it back the way we started. So I'll have the financial details available, but it requires us working together if this is going to happen, in which case it'll be much more possible for those in the local area to attend, because it'll be on one of the main streets in Mount Shasta, not out here at the end of a farm road. So that's the details. All right, I think we're going to stop there and go offline and look for your emails. Contact me if you know you should, and we'll see you all next week. And in the meantime, do good, avoid evil.
Be safe out there.
And be safe out there.